Morning. Welcome to another episode of Agatha Meets. If you're new to this, I'm going to take my Allegro to a friend or someone I know, and we're going to have a look at their car. They're going to tell us about it and they're going to drive it. Different from all the other review shows, it's more personal to the person that owns the car. I hope you enjoy it. Today we're going to see my friend Simon, who's got a black Tr7 Premium. I think there was only about 400 of them made, so it should be interesting. I've never been in a Tr7 before, and they're from my favourite TV show, Detectorists, so should be good one for me, this one. I'll catch you later.
On today's episode of Agatha Meets, Austin Allegro Agatha is meeting Terry the Triumph Tr7, both designed by the same man, Harris Man. Good morning, my name's Simon and welcome to my Triumph Tr7 Premium. It's a fixed head coupe, it's finished in black, it's a special edition. They made 400 of them, so it's actually quite a rare car. It's a fixed head coupe, it's 1980, it's actually April 1980 when this was registered. And the premium models were introduced in January 1980 for about 4 or 5 months. The reason why the premium special edition exists is it's a precursor, it's a bit of a taster for the new trim, the new dash, and a few other alterations that were done for the 1981 model year variant that came out in September 1980. And they were just testing the waters for that. Another reason why this came out was the convertible had just been introduced, and sales of the fixed head coupe had slackened off. So what they wanted to do was drum up a bit of interest and a bit of demand and a bit of sales for the fixed head coupe by doing a special edition model like this. So, of the 400 made, most of them had the beige interior, or golden tan as it's called, and the golden stripes, and they all had alloy wheels. Although 20 or so actually had the silver stripes and the blue interior with the check trim, and they really are the special collector's versions. In terms of price, there's no premium at all, even though it's a premium edition. It's just a regular Tr7, so they're not specially sought after really. I mean, it's more the convertibles that are sought after rather than as I say, the fixed heads, but fixed heads have come up in value over the years. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet. As you can see, it's got the original engine. Some of them were retrofitted with the V8 engines, but this it's still got its 2-litre engine with pride. It's the original engine. The car itself has covered about 54,000 miles, so it's wearing quite well. The engine itself was shared with the Triumph Dolomite. It's called a slant 4 engine because when the engine was in development it was actually one half of a V8. In fact, the Triumph Stag had the V8 engine, but this is like one half of it, so of course if it was a V8, one half would slant that way and the other half would slant that way in a V formation. The Dolomite had an 1850cc engine. This has got a 2-litre, it's got a 1998cc engine. The Dolomite Sprint had the same engine displacement, 2 litres, but it had a 16-valve cylinder head, whereas this has only got the 8-valve cylinder head. So it's a bit of a part spin really. It produces 105 brake horsepower as standard, and this is effectively a standard tune engine. Twin SU carburetors on this as well. There's a K&N performance air filter in there, okay, so you don't need to, all you need to do is re-oil them periodically, you don't need to keep changing them. McPherson strut front suspension, just like a Dolomite. And what have I done? Well, one of the things that I did straight away when I bought the car was I noticed that there was a bit of a leak coming around about here on the radiator. So I thought, oh, what's this? Could it be the hose? Could it be the radiator? Could it be what? So I had a little bit of an investigation. And as it turned out, the radiator was completely knackered. It wasn't the original one, it was a replacement from 1985, so it had done really well. So I looked at it and I thought I'll take the radiator off, and the hoses weren't all that clever either, so I thought, right, I'll add that to my shopping list. And before you knew it, I had a complete new cooling system, and that was this time last year in the summer holidays when I should have been driving it and enjoying it in the summer. I was crawling about underneath, under the bonnet. I have a couple of design faults here. First of all, the forward hinge bonnet, I think, impedes access to the engine.
Looks cool though.
It does indeed, absolutely. Secondly, because it's a sloping nose, can you see all the water there? Ugh. And water collects in there, and of course, when it evaporates, it leaves all the dirt behind, so it makes it look neglected.
But he doesn't neglect it. No.
Oh no. Sometimes in an old British Leyland car, when you look in the boot, it's a bit of a horror story, full of rust and full of okay, this one's pretty good. It's got the original boot trim. Under there is the original spare tyre. The spare tyre itself is one of these Goodyear Grand Prix S.
Remember 'em.
Okay, so what makes a premium? The golden tan seats with the check trim. The grey dash. Previously the dashes were black, but they introduced this to relieve the sort of stark blackness of the interior. Other premium features for the special edition: halogen headlamps, front fog lights, also twin rear fog guard lights, which were actually a legal requirement from August of 1980. Another big feature about the TR7 Premium is the full-length fabric sunroof.
And it looks like we're still on the original windscreen.
We are indeed. Super cover sticker and triplex laminated as well. Okay, nerdy fact. It says TR7 on the back because that's what it is. Look at the font. Now if you compare it to where it says TR7 on the side stripe, you can see it's a different font. That was the earlier font, and that font was used until 1978, but this is a 1980 vehicle. The reason is all this whole side stripe was for the TR7 Sprint, which they were going to introduce, but when the Speak factory closed down, that project was cancelled, so they had a load of these side stripes going spare, so they put them on the Premium with that old font. I've got a reasonably full service history for this vehicle, and it's not really in any particular order. Some of the previous owners were into the TR register, and 1989, there's a souvenir program there. Lots of invoices from Austin Rover dealers of the time. Trinity Motors, based in Hinckley.
Is it a Leicester car anyway?
It is a Leicester car.
Yeah. Nerdy registration. I'm
Absolutely.
afraid. Terrible for that, me.
More Trinity Motors invoices, loads of them. And so it goes on. TR7 Drivers Club. Look at all this. Loads of it.
Mm-hmm. You really, it's going to do my OCD terribly, but I have them in, mine are in date order like a proper nerd.
I'll have to do that one of these days. It ran in the Benson and Hedges Classic International Final at some point, so that's all. And that was 1992.
How many owners has the car had, do you know?
It's had 6 previous owners, and this service history accounts for most of them.
Right.
Some photos of the car when it was up for sale in 2006.
Right.
So it's not really changed much from there, but you can probably see, I don't know whether you can pick that out, the stripes are in better condition.
Yeah. Well, that's 14 years ago.
It is. Right. Interestingly,
I'm trying not to film your address on there or somebody's address. I'm pointing.
yeah. Interestingly, it had actually got a personalised registration number at one point,
ATR. Ah, yeah, I think I've seen that on the TR7 Owners Club page. Some guy's still got that on his car now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously it's reverted back to its original registration. All MOT. This MOT is from 2005. I've got all of them. Last MOT I had on this, it sailed through with no advisories. But as you can see, loads and loads and loads of invoices.
What you want, definitely what you want.
Absolutely. Now we're moving to the juicy bits here. I'm going to get these two out. For a start, we've got this, which is the heritage certificate. Okay. Now this is dated 1991, but it actually gives, it's like a birth certificate really. It authenticates the car. And it shows it's a premium limited edition. Shows it's factory black, right hand drive. Date built 15th to the 17th of January 1980, and it was shipped 11th of February, and it was registered on the 5th of April 1980.
Oh.
All the key numbers are genuine, and these are the equipment that have been specified. Interesting thing in this service history, it talks about the original history of the car, and it's from Mr. Wicks, who was the second owner. He got the car from Midland Automart in 1987, and he paid just over £3,000 for it, and he bought it from the original owner, Mrs. Bird, who had it from 1980 to 1987, and she used it mainly to go to and from the local golf club, and it had done just 12,300 miles in that time, so it's a really low mileage car. So Mr. Wicks, between September 87 and November 88, basically used it as a daily, and he racked up basically about 12,000 miles. And unfortunately, in one day in November, in the fog, a bus scraped the side of the car, the near side of the car. Now the bus company paid up, and he used the money, the insurance settlement, to have it resprayed. When it was looking nice and blingy, what he then decided to do was put it into the local sort of concours events that were taking place, and it won some trophies.
On a little bit of a test drive, my first go in a TR7. It's a lovely bonnet view to see, but must be a killer to park, I guess.
It is.
Yeah.
You have to lean right over
Yeah.
like that.
It's quite good though. I mean, I'm very tall and I'm in it, but there's not much room in the rear for anybody. If you wanted to take Mags and them onto the bingo, you'd struggle with this, I think.
Well, you wouldn't. It's a strict two-seater.
It is. Anyway, I'd like to first ask Simon what made him pick a TR7 and how long he's owned this car.
Well, I'll answer the second question first. I've had it 2 years, okay, literally just 2 years, and I've always wanted a TR7. They came out when I was about 11, and I was just bowled over by the shape, just the low nose, the wedge shape, the high rear, the pop-up headlamps.
Yeah.
You know, as an impressionable 11-year-old, wow, it was the car to have. And I've always had this thought in the back of my mind about owning one. Now, as I got older, the cars got older, and they started getting problems and a bad reputation for reliability and that sort of thing, as all British Leyland cars did. So I thought, well, maybe not. But 2 years ago, you know, I couldn't stop that itch from itching anymore,
Yeah.
so I decided to do something about it and bought it. And I bought it from a specialist. I paid good money for it, but it's in good condition. I'm glad I did, because of course, if I'd have bought a rock box and a load of rubbish, it'd have put me off. And I wouldn't have it anymore, and I'd have moved on to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't buy a crap one like I did.
Uh-oh.
Just want to know really what brought you to this point in time with owning the TR7, what previous cars you've had. We know from a previous video, if you look at my lists of videos, Simon's the guy that I fetched the Maestro for a while ago, the green one. I'll put a link to this at the end of the video just so you can have a look at that video. There is a quick glimpse of this TR7 at the end of that video, but this is what made me sort of start the thought of doing this Agatha Meets series when Simon said one day we could do this, and this is where we're at now. We're actually having a look at the TR7. So yeah, what brought you to this point in time, car wise, other than Maestros I guess, that wanting to own a TR7?
Well, I've always been a British Leyland fanboy. My dad had British Leyland cars, and I suppose it was in the blood really. I started off with Allegros, and
Hey!
and I had Marinas, Princess, and those cars were effectively one step away from the scrapyard. You know, they were runarounds, they were bangers, and by the time I got a decent job, I just had enough of that really, and I wanted a car that I could depend on, an almost new car. So I actually bought a Maestro. It was a 3-year-old Maestro, and I had the Maestro, then I had a Montego, and then I moved on to the 16 valve Rovers. Had those as well. Moved on to a non-British Leyland car, a Ford Mondeo, and of course my ex-wife at the time was driving new cars. We just had our son, and she had a brand new Peugeot, I think it was a 306, and I couldn't really at that time justify having another new car, so I actually bought an old Maestro again to run around in.
As you do.
As you do, and I kept that for effectively 10 years, and had a lot of restoration work done to it, but it's like the Forth Bridge. As soon as you finish, then something else pops up, and then in the end I got rid of it. I ran around in an old Golf for a long while, and then moved up to Derby, and then I started buying VWs. I've got the present Golf, wife's got a Polo, but in between those cars I've had an Austin 1300, which was my first classic, and that was a 2-door one, which I enjoyed driving and maintaining. A lot of fun with that, and as I say, apart from the Maestros, which were then I suppose neo-classic cars, I wanted something else, and that's where the TR7 comes in.
Right, so what do you think are the good and bad things about owning a TR7 in particular?
Well, for a start, from a driving point of view, it's more modern than its years suggest. So even for a 1980 car, I mean, the dash isn't too bad. It wouldn't look out of place in a fairly modern car these days. It's very roomy. It's a very direct drive as well. There's no slop in the steering. You know, everything. You have to drive it. You know, modern cars they drive themselves almost. This you have to put your foot on the brakes, put your foot on the clutch, etc., etc. Hard down. Otherwise, you know, you get graunchy gears and that sort of thing. But I like it because the controls are so direct.
Yes. Good times, good times.
The instrumentation is a good point about this car. There's no annoying reflections. It's fairly modern for a 1980 car, and that's one of the reasons why I like it. The fact it is so modern, and yet it's so retro as well.
What do you think? Have you got any bad points with it that you really dislike?
Yeah, really. Oddment space. You've got a glove compartment, one of these lockers here, and that's probably about it. There's a shelf behind the seats.
Well, you don't buy these to go family shopping, do you? So.
Well, no, but it's amazing, coming from a modern car where there's lots of cubby holes.
No cup holders.
Yeah, to this, it's just, you can't fit anything in.
No,
really.
I get that,
Where do you put your mobile phone?
True.
Right, another thing I dislike about this car is, whilst the performance and the road holding is really good, the brakes are terrible. The brake pads are actually shared with a Mini 1275 GT.
It sounds familiar. The Allegro ones are about 2 inches or something. They're really tiny.
I think these are smaller.
Yeah.
The reason being that these were designed for the American market, and they had a blanket 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, so you didn't need super duper brakes.
All right. Well. There we go then. Thanks for watching that video featuring Simon and Terry the Tr7. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up and a like. Always answer your questions in the comments if you want to stick one below. That'd be good. Share, subscribe, whatever you like. We don't really mind, but we'd like you to appreciate the videos. Let me know if I'm doing anything you don't like as well. That's fine. And I'll see you on another video. Take it easy. Bye. we've seen this old girl before. This is the star of another video that I did when I trailered this one for Simon. Still got to get this one recommissioned. But yeah, there he is. NGN. If you know, you know.